Welcome to the Hidden Wealth Coins. Most people would never imagine that a penny, a nickel, a quarter, or a $50 could hide life-changing wealth. These coins look ordinary, worn, and forgettable, the kind people spend without thinking. But a single overlooked detail in certain years can turn pocket change into millions of dollars. Some of these coins were ignored for decades before shocking discoveries exposed their unbelievable value. First up, the 1944 wheat penny is not just a small copper coin from the past. It is a survivor of one of the most dramatic moments in American history. Born in the final years of World War II, this 1-cent coin carries the weight of a nation at war, a stressed economy, and a minting process pushed to its limits. At a glance, it may look ordinary, even worn or forgotten, but hidden within certain 1944 wheat pennies is a story so powerful that collectors today treat these coins like buried treasure. This is the kind of coin that quietly sat in pockets and jars for decades, while its true value waited patiently to be discovered. To understand why the 1944 wheat penny is so important, you must step back into the wartime United States. Copper was a critical metal needed for ammunition, electrical wiring, and military equipment. Just 1 year earlier, in 1943, the U.S. Mint had switched to steel pennies to conserve copper for the war effort. When copper returned in 1944, it didn't come from newly mined sources alone. Much of it was reclaimed from melted military shell casings, giving these pennies a direct physical connection to the battlefield. Every authentic 1944 wheat penny made of copper literally carries recycled history within its metal. Most 1944 wheat pennies were struck in copper alloy and released into circulation by the millions, and many of them still exist today. However, what transforms an ordinary coin into a million-dollar legend is not just the date, but the mistakes that happened during production. Wartime mints were under pressure, machines were overworked, and human error was unavoidable. In rare cases, leftover steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally used again in 1944, creating one of the most famous error coins in American history, the 1944 steel wheat penny. These coins were never meant to exist, and that mistake is exactly what makes them priceless. A genuine 1944 steel wheat penny is considered one of the holy grails of U.S. coin collecting. Only a tiny handful are confirmed to exist, and each one is treated like a museum artifact. These coins look silver gray instead of copper and instantly stand out to trained eyes. When authenticated, their value can reach into the millions of dollars, depending on condition and provenance. Collectors do not see these coins as pocket change. They see them as once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, pieces of history that will never be replaced or recreated. Condition plays a massive role in the value of any 1944 wheat penny, especially rare errors. Coins that survived circulation with minimal wear, sharp details, and original surfaces are exponentially more valuable than heavily worn examples. A well-preserved coin tells a clearer story of its origin, and collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for that clarity. Even copper 1944 wheat pennies, when found in exceptional uncirculated condition, can command surprisingly high prices because they represent a perfect snapshot of wartime minting quality. What makes these coins so emotionally powerful is the idea that they were once ignored. Many rare wheat pennies were unknowingly spent at grocery stores, dropped into tip jars, or stored in old piggy banks. Some were passed down through families without anyone realizing their significance. The thought that a coin capable of changing someone's life could be hiding in plain sight adds an almost mythical quality to the 1944 wheat penny. It fuels the belief that history still whispers through everyday objects, waiting for the right person to listen. Collectors obsess over tiny details on these coins, such as mint marks, surface texture, weight, and magnetic properties. A steel penny reacts differently than copper, and that simple difference can separate a common coin from a life-changing discovery. Authentication is critical because the value is so high that counterfeit attempts exist. A real 1944 steel wheat penny is not just rare, it is documented, studied, and fiercely protected by the numismatic community. Each verified example has its own reputation and story. The wheat penny design itself adds another layer of historical importance. Featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front, it was the first U.S. coin to depict a real person rather than a symbolic figure. The wheat stalks on the reverse symbolized prosperity, agriculture, and national strength, values that were deeply important during wartime America. In 1944, these symbols carried extra meaning, representing hope for victory, recovery, and a return to peace after years of sacrifice. Over time, Stories of record-breaking auction sales have elevated the 1944 wheat penny into legend status. When one appears at auction, it attracts intense global attention from elite collectors, investors, and historians. Bidding wars are fueled not only by rarity, but by fear of missing out on something that may never surface again. Once a confirmed example disappears into a private collection, it may not be seen publicly for decades, if ever. Despite all this fame, the most fascinating aspect of the 1944 wheat penny is how accidental its rarity is. These coins were never designed to be valuable. Their worth comes from human error, wartime chaos, and the unpredictable nature of history. That randomness gives them a special aura, reminding collectors that the most valuable objects are often created unintentionally. It is this unpredictability that keeps people searching through old coin rolls even today. For many, the 1944 wheat penny represents more than money. It symbolizes possibility. The idea that a simple cent could carry unimaginable value challenges how we see everyday objects. It encourages curiosity, patience, and respect for history. Even if someone never finds $1 million coin, the search itself connects them to the past in a deeply personal way. The market value of these coins continues to evolve as collectors compete and supply remains fixed. No new 1944 wheat pennies will ever be made, and confirmed rare examples will only become harder to acquire. This natural scarcity keeps demand strong and prices resilient, even during economic uncertainty. To serious collectors, these coins are not expenses, they are long-term assets anchored in history. What truly separates the 1944 wheat penny from ordinary collectibles is its ability to spark imagination. It represents the dream that history can still surprise us, that something small and overlooked can hold enormous power. That dream is why people say never spend an old coin without checking it carefully. Sometimes fortune does not arrive loudly, sometimes it sits quietly in your hand, waiting to be recognized. In the end, the 1944 wheat penny stands as a reminder that wealth is not always created in boardrooms or stock markets. Sometimes it is born in minting rooms during wartime, shaped by error, survival, and chance. Whether found in a collection, an auction house, or an old family drawer, this coin carries a story that no amount of money can replace. And for the lucky few who encounter the rarest versions, it has the undeniable power to change their fortune overnight. Second up, the 1965 Jefferson Nickel may look like an ordinary 5-cent coin, but its story is anything but ordinary. This coin was born during one of the most turbulent transitions in American monetary history, a time when metal shortages, public panic, and massive changes in coin production collided at once. In 1965, Americans were hoarding coins, silver was vanishing from circulation, and the U.S. Mint was under extreme pressure to keep the economy moving. Out of this chaos came Jefferson nickels that would quietly enter circulation, carrying secrets that would take decades to fully understand and appreciate. By 1965, the United States was facing a serious coin crisis. Rising metal values had pushed people to pull silver coins from everyday use, creating shortages across the country. While nickels did not contain silver, they were still affected by the same production stress and urgency. The minting process became rushed, dyes were overused, quality control weakened, and errors slipped through unnoticed. These conditions created a perfect environment for rare variations, striking anomalies, and unusual transitional pieces that today fuel collector obsession. The Jefferson nickel design itself already held deep historical weight. Introduced in 1938, it replaced the Buffalo nickel and honored Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding architects. By 1965, the design had been in use for decades, but the meaning behind it had matured. Jefferson's image represented stability and democracy at a time when Americans feared economic uncertainty. The Monticello building on the reverse symbolized endurance, tradition, and the idea that the nation could survive even its most uncertain moments. What makes certain 1965 Jefferson nickels so valuable is not something obvious to the untrained eye. These coins were struck without mint marks, a deliberate decision by the U.S. Mint to discourage hoarding and speculation. However, the absence of mint marks also erased easy identification, allowing rare strikes and mistakes to blend seamlessly into circulation. Some coins were struck with unusual metal compositions, others with extreme die wear, weak strikes, or double details that only become visible under careful examination. Condition is everything when it comes to value. A 1965 Jefferson nickel that survived circulation with sharp details, smooth surfaces, and original luster becomes far more than face value. In exceptional mint state condition, these coins reflect the stress and speed of 1965 production while preserving their original character. Collectors see these high-grade survivors as time capsules, untouched evidence of a year when American coinage was pushed to its limits. Among the most fascinating pieces are error nickels that should never have existed. Coins struck on the wrong planchets, coins with dramatic misalignments, and coins showing extreme doubling or die cracks have become legends in the collecting world. These errors are not flaws to collectors, they are signatures of history. Each one proves that even a powerful system like the U.S. Mint is vulnerable to human and mechanical imperfection, especially during times of national pressure. The idea that a 5-cent coin could hold unimaginable wealth seems impossible to most people, which is exactly why these nickels were overlooked for so long. Many passed through thousands of hands, spent without thought, tossed into jars, or buried in old drawers. Some rare examples may still exist in collections that have never been properly examined. This possibility fuels the dream that life-changing value can still be hiding in plain sight. Collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels understand that rarity is not always about low mintage numbers. It is about survival, condition, and uniqueness. A rare error or exceptional strike from 1965 becomes priceless not because it is old, but because it represents a moment when normal rules were broken. These coins tell stories of rushed workers, tired machines, and a nation trying to keep its economy functioning during uncertainty. Over time, high-profile sales and private transactions have elevated elite 1965 Jefferson nickels into the realm of serious investment. When one appears in top condition or with a dramatic error, it attracts intense attention. Wealthy collectors compete not just for ownership, but for the prestige of holding a piece of American history that few others can ever possess. Once acquired, such coins are rarely sold again, further tightening supply. The emotional power of these coins cannot be ignored. They remind people that history is not distant or abstract. It lives in objects that were once part of everyday life. A 1965 Jefferson nickel sat in the same pockets as grocery money, bus fare, and coffee change. That shared human connection makes its transformation into a high-value collectible feel almost magical. What truly sets the 1965 Jefferson nickel apart is the mystery that surrounds it. Because mint marks were removed and production was rushed, many questions remain unanswered. New discoveries still happen when old collections are re-examined. Each discovery adds another chapter to the coin story, keeping it alive and relevant decades after it was struck. For serious collectors, these nickels are not just assets, they are long-term commitments. They represent patience, knowledge, and respect for the past. The value does not come overnight for most people, but for the rare individual who uncovers an extraordinary example, the reward can feel sudden and overwhelming. That is where the legend of overnight fortune is born. The market respects coins that cannot be replaced. No new 1965 Jefferson nickels will ever be minted, and no future technology can recreate the exact conditions under which they were made. That finality gives them lasting strength in the collector world. As interest grows and supply shrinks, the most exceptional examples continue to rise in importance and value. In the end, the 1965 Jefferson nickel stands as proof that greatness is not always loud. Sometimes it is small, quiet, and overlooked. A 5-cent coin, created during a moment of national strain, now carries the power to reshape lives, challenge assumptions, and reward those who pay attention. Its story reminds us never to underestimate the value of history, because even the smallest piece of it can change a fortune overnight. Third up, the 1970 Washington quarter dollar may appear like an ordinary coin from the late 20th century, but behind its familiar face lies a story shaped by change, pressure, and quiet rarity. This coin was born during a period when American coinage was redefining itself, moving away from precious metals and into a new era of mass production. While millions of quarters passed through hands every day, a small number of 1970 Washington quarters carried subtle differences that would later turn them into objects of fascination, mystery, and extraordinary value. By 1970, the United States had already removed silver from most circulating coins, a decision that shocked the public and permanently changed how people viewed money. The Washington quarter, once made of silver, was now struck in copper and nickel layers. This transition was not just technical, it marked the end of an era when everyday change held intrinsic metal value. Collectors today see 1970 as a symbolic year, a dividing line between the old monetary world and the modern one, and coins from this time carry that emotional weight. The Washington quarter design itself added to the coin's historical gravity. George Washington's profile had been on the quarter since 1932, representing leadership, endurance, and national identity. By 1970, his image had become deeply embedded in American life, appearing in pockets, cash registers, and wallets across the nation. The eagle on the reverse symbolized strength and vigilance, qualities Americans valued deeply during a decade marked by political tension, social change, and uncertainty. What elevates certain 1970 Washington quarters far beyond face value is not something obvious to the casual observer. These coins were produced during a time when minting technology was evolving, but still imperfect. Dies were pushed hard, production was fast, and quality control was not always precise. As a result, rare striking characteristics, unusual surfaces, and unexpected minting anomalies were quietly released into circulation, unnoticed for years. Condition plays a decisive role in separating a common coin from a legendary one. A 1970 Washington quarter that survives with sharp details, full design strength, and untouched surfaces becomes dramatically more desirable. Such coins capture the exact moment they were created, preserving the look and feel of freshly struck metal from over half a century ago. Collectors value this preservation because it allows history to be experienced directly, not imagined. Among the most desirable pieces are quarters that display unusual mint behavior. Some show doubled elements that hint at die movement, others reveal striking irregularities that speak to mechanical stress inside the minting presses. These are not considered defects by collectors, but fingerprints of history. Each anomaly is unique, and uniqueness is the foundation of high value in the collector world. The idea that a single quarter could hold unimaginable wealth feels unreal to most people, which is why such coins often went unnoticed for decades. Many rare examples were spent, saved, or inherited without anyone realizing their importance. Some still sit in collections assembled long ago, waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize what others missed. This possibility fuels endless fascination and keeps collectors searching. The early 1970s were a time of economic uncertainty, inflation concerns, and changing public trust in money. Coins like the 1970 Washington quarter silently witnessed this transformation. They moved through the economy as symbols of stability, even as their composition and meaning evolved. Today, that historical context adds emotional and financial weight to the coin, making it far more than just metal. As time passed, collectors began to look more closely at quarters from this transitional era. Patterns emerged, rarity was recognized, and demand grew. Exceptional 1970 Washington quarters became fiercely contested when they surfaced, especially those with unusual characteristics and pristine condition. When collectors compete, values rise rapidly, driven by scarcity and the fear that another opportunity may never come. What makes these quarters especially powerful is that they were never meant to be special. Their value was not planned or advertised. It was created by chance, by subtle differences, and by the passage of time. This randomness gives the coin an almost mythical status, reminding collectors that history often rewards attention and patience rather than intention. For serious numismatists, a top-tier 1970 Washington quarter is not just a purchase, it is a statement. It represents understanding, experience, and respect for the story behind the object. These coins are often held for years or decades, rarely entering the market. When they do, they command attention not because of hype, but because of their proven importance. The emotional connection to these coins is powerful. A quarter that once paid for a newspaper or a cup of coffee now carries the weight of decades. It has passed through countless lives, each unaware of its future significance. That journey transforms the coin into a symbol of hidden potential, something small that quietly grows in importance over time. No new 1970 Washington quarters will ever be made, and no future generation can recreate the exact conditions under which they were struck. That finality gives them lasting strength. As collectors age and collections are dispersed, the best examples become even harder to find, increasing their desirability and their value. In the end, the 1970 Washington quarter dollar stands as a reminder that history does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be recognized. A single quarter, once overlooked, now carries the power to change fortunes, rewrite assumptions, and prove that even the smallest pieces of the past can hold unimaginable wealth when time reveals their true importance. Fourth up. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is far more than a 50-cent coin. It is a frozen moment of American history shaped by emotion, transition, and quiet rarity. When this coin was struck, it carried the lingering memory of President John F. Kennedy, whose legacy still echoed strongly across the nation. Although millions of half-dollars entered circulation, a small number of 1,972 examples carried unique characteristics that would later elevate them into the realm of extraordinary value. These coins were never meant to be special, yet time transformed them into powerful symbols of history and hidden wealth. The Kennedy half-dollar itself was born out of national mourning. First introduced in the mid-1960s, it was created to honor a fallen president whose image represented hope, youth, and change. By 1972, the coin had already become a familiar presence in American life, but the country itself was changing. Economic pressures, inflation, and shifting attitudes toward money were reshaping how people viewed coinage. The half-dollar stood at the crossroads between reverence and routine, quietly moving through the economy while its deeper significance grew. During this period, the United States Mint was operating under intense pressure. Precious metals were being phased out, production was accelerating, and efficiency often took priority over perfection. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar emerged from this environment, where worn dies, hurried strikes, and mechanical inconsistencies were more common than most people realized. These conditions created subtle variations that only careful observation could uncover, variations that would later fuel collector fascination. The design of the Kennedy half-dollar adds immense emotional weight to the coin. Kennedy's portrait is bold, dignified, and instantly recognizable, capturing both strength and vulnerability. The reverse design, with its powerful national imagery, reinforces the coin's role as a symbol of unity and endurance. In 1972, this imagery resonated deeply with Americans navigating political tension and social change. Every strike of the coin carried not just metal, but meaning. What separates an ordinary 1972 Kennedy half-dollar from a legendary one is not obvious at first glance. The differences are often subtle, hidden in surface texture, strike quality, or microscopic details created by stressed minting equipment. Certain coins display unusual depth, sharpness, or striking characteristics that reveal they were produced under rare conditions. These traits, once recognized, can transform a simple half-dollar into an object of immense desire. Condition plays a defining role in determining value. A 1972 Kennedy half-dollar that has survived with crisp details, original luster, and minimal wear becomes a true time capsule. Such coins offer a direct visual connection to the year they were made, untouched by decades of circulation. Collectors place enormous value on this preservation, because it allows history to be seen as it once was, not faded or altered. Among the most fascinating examples are error and anomaly coins that escaped the mint unnoticed. These pieces may show doubling, misalignment, or unusual striking effects that reveal the stress placed on minting machinery. To collectors, these are not mistakes but signatures of a specific moment in time. Each one is unique, and that uniqueness is what drives exceptional value. The idea that a 50-cent coin could hold unimaginable wealth feels unbelievable to most people. This disbelief is exactly why rare Kennedy half-dollars were overlooked for so long. Many were spent casually, stored without care, or passed down without examination. Some may still exist in collections assembled decades ago, waiting silently for discovery. This possibility keeps the legend alive and the search ongoing. The early 1970s were marked by uncertainty, and coins from this era absorbed that atmosphere. The Kennedy half-dollar moved through a society questioning its future, yet clinging to familiar symbols. Today, that context gives the coin emotional depth that goes far beyond its denomination. It represents continuity during change, stability during doubt. As collectors began to study this era more closely, the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar gained new attention. Patterns were identified, rarity became clearer, and demand intensified. Exceptional examples started to command dramatic premiums, especially when their characteristics could not be easily replicated. When such a coin enters the market, it creates excitement not because of hype, but because of proven scarcity. For serious collectors, owning a top-tier 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is about more than money. It is about stewardship of history. These coins are often held for long periods, rarely traded, and carefully protected. Each one becomes part of a narrative that connects past, present, and future collectors. The emotional pull of these coins is undeniable. A $50 that once bought a newspaper or sat in a register now represents decades of change. It has passed through countless hands, each unaware of its eventual significance. That journey transforms the coin into something almost poetic, a reminder that value can grow quietly over time. No new 1972 Kennedy $50 will ever be produced, and no future mint can recreate the exact conditions under which they were struck. That finality gives these coins lasting power. As years pass and the best examples disappear into private collections, their importance only increases. The market respects coins that tell authentic stories. A rare 1972 Kennedy $50 speaks of national memory, economic transition, and the imperfections of human systems. These stories are what collectors truly pay for, not just metal or design. In the end, the 1972 Kennedy $50 stands as proof that history often hides in plain sight. What was once everyday change now holds the power to reshape fortunes and challenge assumptions. For those rare individuals who recognize its significance, this coin is more than currency. It is a silent witness to the past and a powerful reminder that even the smallest objects can carry the weight to change a life overnight.